Jada, you've been really busy. You actually did something pretty huge. You gave a Sonic the Hedgehog game a really, really high review. You gave a really good review to Sonic and Shadows Generations, and everyone's really, what's the opposite of being mad at somebody for something? Like they're happy about it?
They're happy. Like the internet is happy. I've never experienced this before.
It's weird,
in my life,
right?
The internet being happy. I reviewed Sonic X Shadow Generations.
Is it X or and or cross generation? It's X. Sonic X Shadow. Damn it.
Sonic X Shadow Generations, because it's basically you get a package deal. You get Sonic Generations and you also get Shadow Generations. So like that is the gist of this package deal is you are playing through the old Sonic Generations content, which is primarily the same, majorly the same. There's got some changes. There's some, cutscenes and stuff that are a little different, a few voice lines that are different, nothing that impacts the actual gameplay, nothing that is truly important. Like there's a scene at the beginning where in the original Sonic, basically face palms or stiff arms Amy when she tries to give him a hug, and in this one she's trying to give him cupcakes and just standing there holding cupcakes like Sonic, take these cupcakes. And so like it's little differences like that. It's like whatever, that doesn't really affect it, but the core of Sonic Generations is the same. They added collectible Chow, which for our Sonic Adventure fans out there, those are the cute little adorable little baby demons and angel things that you can raise and send off to fight in karate or race in crazy races. So your
little devil garden.
Yeah, your little devil Chow garden, or angel Chow garden, depending on which you prefer. But yeah, so that content is primarily mostly the same, and then you get the Shadow Generations, which I hate to say it, but I think the Shadow Generations levels are better than pretty much any Sonic levels that we've ever gotten when it comes to 3D. I think they absolutely cooked when it comes to creating content specifically for Shadow using his Chaos Control, where you can stop time, including the stage timer. So for those going for those S ranks with trying to cut off seconds off your time, like that is super valuable for that. He gets tons of new abilities for when you replay through the stages. His story is pretty good. There's a lot of really kick-ass moments. It has me more hyped for Sonic 3 when he gets ready to put the business on Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles.
Sonic the movie, yeah.
Yes, like I'm very excited for the Sonic 3 movie. Sorry, not Sonic 3 and Knuckles from the Sega Genesis. He doesn't go back to do that.
I did love that game back in the day.
That was a great game back in the day. Still a great game. But yeah, no, this is a fantastic. This is basically, so Generations was already one of my favorite Sonic games of all time because it's just very fun recreations of Sonic's best stages throughout the years, or maybe not his best stages, but recreations of iconic stages from throughout the years. And Shadow, they did the same thing with Shadow, and they knocked it out of the park. It is,
it's
shorter.
It's essentially what Shadow was doing during Sonic Generations. Essentially, like he was off world, taking care of business. And I love how they connected those two in that way. Because, obviously Shadow wasn't there at the party that they were having in the beginning. And this is essentially what he was doing, what he was off doing. And it's okay for you to say that, the Shadow levels are better than Sonic's levels because he's like Shadow's the ultimate life form. So, and they give him these superpowers that Sonic he was manufactured in a lab. So
like Sonic wouldn't hold a grudge about that, but Shadow, he seems like the type who'd be pretty pissed off if you're like, yeah, the Sonic levels are way better. He'd come to your house with a gun. Like he's just that kind of hedgehog.
But yeah, there is no Shadow the Hedgehog stages like that popped up. So no bringing back, Uzis or bazookas or any of that type of stuff that he had in
canceling my pre-order.
But every level is fantastic. It's so much fun. The music is fire all the way through. They picked some of the best tracks for these stages. What's funny is I'm seeing this footage. It's a route I never took that's playing right now. I'm like, this isn't my footage for my review. What route is this? I didn't take that route. I took a different route. But anyways, I probably took a shorter one. But yeah, I absolutely love this. I love the fact that you can set the music to whatever you want for every stage, as long as you've unlocked the track. So I listened to Live and Learn for probably half the campaign, and then replayed through the stages with the actual music so I could hear what the actual music was. I'm a Crush 40 sicko, guys. I can't help it. I love that. That and All Hail Shadow, both fantastic tracks.
Now, I'm curious about this. Akeem, you chimed in with some Sonic lore. What's your read on this? Are you stoked for this? I can never tell.
I've played like 30 minutes of it already. So yeah, no, I mean, I've been sold on this game. It's it's Sonic, you know.
30 minutes is a lot of gameplay because Sonic he's really fast, so you could get a lot done.
Okay, I wasn't playing as Sonic, sir. Okay,
Shadow. Sorry, all right.
All right, I already experienced Sonic.
Don't get all Shadow on me, man.
I want to know. I will not shadow ban you from this conversation. All right, just stay with me.
Don't throw any shade my way. I don't want.
That's not a character from Sonic, by the way. But no, this game. We all have been anticipating this. I mean, like for several months now. We've done numerous interviews with the creators. I mean, me on IGN's platform, and I've been hyped like ever since we did IGN Live way back when. I don't even know what month that was. It was either in March or May. Whenever
May, I think it was May,
June,
July,
June.
It was just no way to keep track of these things. No one has ever figured out a way to know when and where the months happened. It's just.
But no, I was hyped when we did IGN Live and we had that live audience and just being able to talk to the creators about it. And I've just been waiting for it to come out, and it's everything that I had hoped for, and I think it's everything that fans will hope for. Like again, the fact that they were able to connect the two, because I think that the main question that I had that wasn't answered was, how do you plan on connecting Sonic Generations with the Shadow Generations? Because what is going on? Like, what is this? Is this like his own thing? But like they bridge the gap. They bridge the gap, and I think fans are going to be very happy with all the various different powers that you get with Shadow, and just like learning more about Shadow as a character and his background. Although we already know it, but being able to see it in deeper detail in this new story that they created for this game. I think fans are going to love this.
You know, it's funny. When I was writing the review, I was like, man, how do I talk about this stuff without spoiling these things? There's so many really cool things. And like, I can't do a review and not talk about some of the cool things, or about any of the cool things. Yeah. And so I was like, looking there, I was like, man, I really want to talk about how you get the Doom Wings powers and you could just fly through stages, kind of like Supersonic style. And I was like, that's like the last ability he get. Do I really want to talk about that? And then I look through like a bunch of promo materials, and I was like, they put out a trailer with all the Doom powers that Shadow gets. I was like, all right, it's off the table. SEGA Team's already spoiled that, so like I can talk about all this stuff. So I left a bunch of I didn't talk about like really in detail any of the story stuff when it comes to like the characters that Shadow meets, because there's a lot of characters important to his history and his lore that make an appearance. But it's got some really cool story stuff to it, and granted, I spent about, 5 hours was what my game clock said when I rolled credits for this one. And that was a slow time because I spent a lot of time in his hub world, which is now this expansive 3D thing that gets bigger as you play more. That has a bunch of challenges and activities and hidden chests to unlock. Whereas Sonic Generations is this like very 2D, just like, hey, just, hit this bumper, go up here, and there's a bunch of challenge stages, do these things. There wasn't any, like, I don't want to say any creativity, but it was very simple compared to what they did with Shadow. So I spent a lot of time exploring that hub world. So my game clock was pretty much longer than I imagined. I anticipate most people finishing it. I think you can probably finish the campaign probably about, hour, 2, if you play through just straight through story stuff and ignore everything else on the side. But I spent about 5 hours in the campaign before I finished it, and then went back and did more afterwards.
Do you two think that this is sort of like the recipe going forward in between like making brand new Sonic games, is to take like the older classic beloved ones, add a bunch of new stuff to them, repackage them and put them back out? Because it feels like that's what I would love to see more companies do, that kind of thing. Like I know that Nintendo does a lot of like HD remakes, and like they're doing Brothership or whatever, like coming up. Like they'll take sort of like classic beloved games and give them a new coat of paint and stuff like that. But like the whole idea of like bringing in a bunch of new content as a way to modernize it, like I think that's a pretty smart play.
I would love to see that more from Sega for sure, because they're sitting on so many classic Sonic games, and we were talking about this in a meeting I think a couple of days ago, Brian Max, where I forgot that Sonic Frontiers came out 2 years ago, and that Sonic Superstars came out last year, which I wasn't too huge of a fan of. I literally just forgot about that, and it seemed like we're seemingly getting a new Sonic game like every single year. Like we got Sonic Frontiers, we got Sonic Superstars, which again, and I'm a huge Sonic fan. I'm saying this, it was forgettable in my eyes.
I mean, I reviewed it and I wasn't as hot on it. Yeah. I wasn't as hot on Superstars, and I reviewed it and I think I gave it a 7. It was a very fine Sonic game, but it was just not what I was like looking for in a Sonic game. It was missing some of that X factor.
Right. You know, I don't think we need filler Sonic games. You know, I would rather them just like cook for, you know, a year and a half, 2 years, and give us something like this. Give us something like Sonic Frontiers. Like I would rather them do something like that than to feel the need to kind of like, just like, I guess, fill in the gaps, I guess, you know?
Yeah. To Brian's, Brian, to your question about like, is this the formula going forward? I think they should make the Generations kind of a franchise of its own, where we get like a Sonic X Shadow Generations 2 that tells a different story that reuses other levels and gives us just more of that kind of curation of the best and iconic moments throughout the franchise. Because there's a lot of stages that just you don't get to see in this, when there's a lot you don't get based on what is already here. There's a lot of stuff, great stuff here, but there's more that they could use, is what I'm trying to say. And so I could definitely see them doing that, but I definitely want Sega to still be creative and still create new stuff. I wasn't too hot on Frontiers. I still want them to take those chances and do those things like Frontiers, because that's the only way we're going to have more content to put in future Generations games. If they do that down the road, they have to create new stuff to create the ability to.
This seems like a cool way to do a remake, though. Like
why don't they just create straight up sequels? That's the thing. Like there's like I said, they're sitting on like Sonic Adventures. They're sitting on that. They have that franchise.
I agree.
Just create a straight up sequel to it. Like Sonic Frontiers.
I think that's what the fans.
Well, you got to make a whole game then.
Sonic Frontiers probably deserves a sequel, because it's like that was a.
You mean Sonic Adventure 2?
Well, I mean that too, but like Sonic Frontiers is one of those games where they're like, let's break the mold a little bit here and try something completely new that we haven't really done yet. And then it was successful in some ways and not in others. And it's like, I don't like when all of that goes into something and then it just goes away. Right. Like,
I agree.
We always talk about like Assassin's Creed 1 and Watch Dogs 1. And like, even like I mentioned Star Wars Outlaws before. I don't think that game will get a sequel, which is a bummer. But like any new thing that starts out as like this is a new attempt at taking like a new franchise or a beloved IP, whatever it is, and putting it in like a brand new mold. And it's not all there yet, but there's a lot of potential. Like I like when a studio is allowed the chance to revisit that stuff, cook again, and make something that like totally works this time. So I hope on behalf of all of you that you guys get that and another Sonic adventure, because it makes more sense than just having to put one out every year just because you have to. Like,
right. Yep. Now, I think for formula wise, this is the formula they should follow for like future adventure games. I think they should do something like similar to that.